use anatomy as a language. So, for instance, this shows very clearly that there are only two extensors muscles, and the rest of them are flexors in the lower calf. You wouldn't think that, but it just gives you, it makes it very clear how the body works. So this is just basically technical stuff which I use as a language, but I think it's interesting to understand your body as a language and how it works. And for artists, this is essential. Just speed through these guys. And then I have, later on, you'll see how artists have applied this. So this is a Rubens drawing, and this shows you how he used anatomy to create expression as a language. So what you saw previous to this, all those colourful illustrations, they're like engineering, and this is where it becomes art. This is where feeling comes in. So the previous thing is just the logic, and this is the feeling. So you marry the two. And there's nothing more effective than somebody who has feeling and has the vocabulary to communicate it. That is where great art is produced. So this is just examples: Pontormo, Tiepolo. And this is another exercise which I do as an anatomical drawing. I just use my friend Gerald in the corner. And he serves as a very handy model where we work all the way through the anatomy, working all the way up through the bone structure. And these are some of the students in my school. And they're doing three-dimensional versions, so working from the drawings and in 3 dimensions. So once you build up the drawing of the skeleton, you get it totally accurate, the proportions and so on, and then you work it into 3 dimensions. And here, for instance, is a study of a great master drawing, Pontormo. You must see this fresco. It's in Santa Felicità, which is the first church on the other side of Ponte Vecchio. And there's a deposition also there. These 2 paintings are the greatest discovery I've made in France. And I thoroughly recommend them. They're completely mystical images. And the reason I picked Pontormo was because he's very carnal and very supernatural. He's a mystic. He's like an Italian version of El Greco. He's got this great anatomical realism. There's real bones and muscles there. You can really believe it, but it's floating. It's mystical. And there's a great combination of the body and the soul, which is essentially our condition. And an artist who can communicate the body and the soul at that level can only be good for culture and lift our souls and lift our bodies. So what I've done is I've taken a Pontormo, I've enlarged this drawing, and then I've used this theory here of the bone structure and then all the anatomy here superimposed with transparency. I've used that. These are the drawings you saw earlier on. I'm using them to create these big drawings. And then I use this theory to apply it to a great master drawing. Okay? So this way, it's like a, how would you say, let's say it would be a dissection or an X-ray of a great master. Okay? So this is more or less like dissecting the masters. So what I'm doing here is I'm dissecting a master drawing. So I make the drawing, then I put a transparency on top, and I use Gerald here to help me know where all these bones are underneath. And then I recreate them on the transparency. Obviously I do this, I put this on top here, and then I trace the skeleton out on top. And that helps me understand where the bones are. And that's essential because bones tell you dimensions and orientation. Bones don't lie, they don't change shape. So the only way you know that my fist is facing towards you is because this bone and this bone are foreshortened. Okay? So you're relying on bone information. Okay? So bones are essential for direction and gesture. And then on top of that, once you've discovered the bones, then you can start putting on the muscles here. and those muscles help you to orientate the form and find and build out the form and the expression. So the primary expression is the bones, with the three major forms: head, thoracic cage, and pelvis, and the orientation of those three. That gives you the essential movement and gesture. And then the next larger forms are the limbs. They give you the next gesture. And then you work your way through the musculature, which is an even more refined vocabulary, right down to the fingers, facial expression, and so on. Okay? So that's how the language of the body works. And here I am studying a master and having him teach me and teach my students. That's why I do this. Here we have a study of the drapery. And by doing the drapery like this, you start to understand why the drapery is like that. The only way you can create drapery like this is if you understand the bone structure. If you understand the bone structure, then you can make the muscle structure. You can't do the muscle structure out of the bones. You have nothing to put it on. And then you don't understand the drapery unless you understand the muscle structure. So if an artist wants to do a realistic drawing of me like this, he has to know where my bones are, where my muscles are, and then where my drapery and my clothes are. Okay? And that helps you communicate in a much more effective way. Because essentially, if you want your work to have impact, if you think about the great works of art that really give you impact, that have a great impact on you, they have bones and muscles. They're very present. And through that presence, that gives the impact. And if you want your work to be acknowledged, then the stronger your presence is, the more respect it gets, and the more effective it will be culturally. So this one here, you have the drapery over the skeleton, and then you can imagine what the musculature is underneath. So you can see, you can fill in the missing part. This is the musculature of the whole body. This is the three together, three together, two together. And here you can see the three together, superimposed. So the bone structure, then the muscle structure, how that's worked, and then how the drapery works on top of that. And if you think about it, this is how an artist thinks. An artist x-rays. When I see you guys, this is how I see. No, not exactly, but this is how I see academically. This is how I would analyze you as an artist. I would see your bone structure, your muscle structure, and then your drapery. But this is only the academic. This is only, it's like the vocabulary. It's like English. English is not about the structure of sentences and so on. No, that just helps you communicate. Great literature is where there's a great understanding of the language, and that's motivated by great spirituality and great humanity. Like, for instance, Shakespeare. His sentences would not be approved of by your English speaker or your English teacher, because he reconstructs the language. Or Joyce, for instance, he totally reconstructs the language. But the essential thing is that what they do is they take a structure, they understand it so well, so that they can abstract from it and communicate much profounder realities about who we are. Because by being very deep thinkers, they use the language and they express something much greater. All right? And artists do the same thing. Really effective artists understand the language very well, and then if they really understand what it means to be a human being very well, then that's a great combination, because you have essentially the full ingredients of a great artist is a person who has great penetration of what it means to be a human being, and the language to communicate it. And when I heard the words of Pope John Paul II, Christ reveals man to man, I realized, wow, that's exactly my vocation as an artist. My vocation as an artist is to communicate